One of Donald Trump's campaign promises was to pardon all of the nonviolent offenders on January 6th. And one of those is here with us right now, Steve Baker. He is our Blaze News investigative journalist who just happened to be a journalist who was walking through the Capitol on that fateful day. So, of course, this is now a very big day for you. How has this been? I mean, we have, let's just go ahead and tell everybody, the champagne is out on the table right now. So what is today like for you?
It's emotional, but it's still not closure yet for me. I'm gonna need a few days to process this. You can't get rid of 4 years of having the chains of a weaponized Department of Justice around your neck, and just celebrate. Yes, I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to celebrate not just my own pardon, but I'm excited about what we're learning from the inside is what is coming. That so many people, we're talking about 1,600 defendants, and so many of those that are in prison right now are there absolutely not because of crimes they committed, but because of the weaponization of the Biden DOJ. And as a result of that, they've had hyperinflated charges, hyperinflated prosecution, and hyperinflated sentences. And that is what I'm excited to see is these guys and gals getting to come home.
Let me say, Jason Whitlock says this at Blaze a lot, and Jason's interesting because he's one of the many Blaze hosts he has never voted in an election before. Voted in this one in part because of what happened on January 6th. Why did he do that? Because he sees what I think a lot of people see, and that is the tragedy of what happened when, again, a political expression of speech went awry, but in the wrong direction. And it could go way further in the other direction, right? And everyone's punished. We all know there were bad people on January 6th, some not good things. And that injustice is something that is very important, very soul essence of America, because free political speech, free political expression is necessary for the Republican form of government. Okay, this is why we're not going to get over this, and that means that, and I'm saying this tonight because we're partying, we're having a great time, and it's really important. So many people on the right in media over the last 4 years have said to me and many other people over and over again, right up until the last few weeks, January 6th is not important. No one cares anymore. January 6th is something that, it's over. It's not something we need to talk about anymore. At Blaze Media, we're not done talking about it, after the pardons. Because all these stories are going to be told, just like the left would do, because they understand the principles at stake. We're not done. Just today, right? Joe Hanneman wrote a piece about an egregious, insane thing that happened, where you got a guy who's an upstanding individual, upstanding American citizen who's in jail for 6 years. We're not done with this. We reject the idea that everyone's over January 6th because the principle of the thing is so important. And that's where like Steve's story, and I also feel a little responsible for your story because by hiring you, I think we made them actually throw this down.
You took a big risk.
Yeah, but I take risks. I'm a risk taker, but I think for the company as a whole, that's a big deal, and I think it testifies to what Glenn Beck and other people are made of. The important thing is that this is not something that just disappears tomorrow. This principle, right, and the principle that has been violated is something that rubs against the very heart of the American regime. We're not going to stop with these stories.
And I'm not interested in doing the whole kind of classic Republican thing of, well, you can't weaponize government. It's absolutely nuts to that. Bad agents are only reformed by force at this point. They're not going to apologize. So that those blanket immunities and pardons that have been given by Donald Trump, great. That means you can't plead the fifth. That means you've got no way out. You're going to be hauled in, and you're going to testify. And just because the Democrats have set this precedent in modern history, recent history, you will be arrested if you're in contempt of Congress, and you will be put in prison. You will answer these questions, and you'll
play that game.
Exactly what Democrats did, which is friends of mine, accountants who were sitting in their offices, people who were stuck in there at the RNC, for example, by a pipe bomb that somebody put there, ended up being hauled in front of Inquisition committees that went through their papers, went through their texts, went through their emails. Everything was laid open to these for partisan attacks, and there are a lot of great people who are innocent people who are rotting in prison, people whose lives have been turned upside down like you. And I'm sorry, it's over. Here's a pardon. It's not going to cut it.
Well, I will tell you, starting with what you said, Matt, is that Jason Whitlock came to the conclusion he came to because he's intellectually honest. And I will tell you that I speak to MSM journalists almost every day.
Oh, by the way, he does. I don't know, Jill, Chris, if you know this, but we should all just reveal this now to the public. This guy is so insane and so like rigorous in his investigations that he talks to mainstream. He talks to legacy journalists. When I tell him that guy is not on your side, Steve. Like, he works for the deep state. He works for the agencies. But Steve still talks to all those people and more because, yeah, anyway, go on.
But you know what? When I'm here in D.C. with them,
Yeah.
and we're either having lunch together or we're having coffee or we're at a beer,
Yeah.
having a beer together at night with these guys, they will be much more honest and they will talk about the fact that the DOJ actually overreached on this. They know it because they covered all the other events that took place in 2020, the riots that took place on January 20th, 2017,
Where everyone-
the first inauguration.
Charges were dropped on all these people.
Where charges were dropped, where the D.C. juries were either hung or they acquitted everyone, and then the DOJ reacted in such a way that they dropped the rest of the charges. They see those comparisons and those examples, and they can't help but come to the intellectually honest conclusion that what has happened to the January 6th defendants, even the most egregious of them, they have been overcharged, over-prosecuted, over-sentenced, and something needs to happen. That's why I don't think we're not going to see a riot in the streets about the pardons and the commutations that are coming of even the most violent, even what people consider to be the most egregious of the January 6th defendants, because we all know in the back of our mind, even if we're insanely partisan, that this was an overreach.
Call it
Yes.
time served for those, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
That's right.
been years.
absolutely.
It's been
It
years.
has been years. They absolutely deserve to move on with their lives and not have this hanging over their heads anymore. Now, we've been talking about some of the things that Donald Trump did in his first moments in office. Let's go ahead and look at what Joe Biden did with some of his last moments in office, because he dropped some pardons for Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, some of the Capitol Police that testified before Congress for the J6ers, and a lot of members of his own family, Steve.
Not only as members of his own, Biden crime family syndicate, but also the pardons for all of the J6 Select Committee members and their staffers. He went deep. Now, I'm assuming they're going to have to name names, but I spent time today reading the language of all these pardons. And the one thing, particularly with the United States Capitol Police and Metropolitan Police officers who testified before those committees, the one thing that he did was they were very narrow in their language. It only pertains to what they did and said and their actions related to the committee itself, which means my first gut reaction about Officer Harry Dunn being pardoned was, oh, I was so angry. And then I read the actual language of the pardon, and I went, wait a minute. He's still open. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
before congressional committee, we're going to get him.
So, yeah, there's off the record things that Steve is referring to. I mean, we live in a second Christmas today. But this is a second Christmas, and it's a great thing. But what you're talking about is the fact that they went out of their way to say it's only what they said to the committee
Correct.
that we're pardoning. And that's even more damning. First off, all of this is damning. As Chris Bedford said earlier, right? I mean, it's all damning. We're going to pardon all these people preemptively because they didn't do anything wrong. Okay.
Brave public servants.
Yes, great people. So that's number one. But number two is it's only what they said to the J6 committee, as if to say, we're not going to go out of our way to actually try to defend what some of these Capitol Police officers and other people did. So again, we're not done. I mean, this is just the beginning now, right? Of real reconciliation, as they say.
Yeah, the
last word, Steve.
alleged pardons for these officers, the pardons for Mark Milley, these are stories that we all have in process. We're not even close to being finished with yet. They're still coming, and the pardons are not expansive enough to cover them because, as you talked about earlier, even today on Beck's show, their Fifth Amendment rights are waived now. They're gone. But you put them in front of a committee in Congress, hold their hand up, take the oath. They get an opportunity to perjure themselves yet again.